It's none of my business, I know, but I couldn't help but notice. Looks like psychosis. Life on relationship blow. What's going on over there? It's none of my business, I know, but I couldn't help but notice. Looks like psychosis. We live on relationship road.
Another row is brewing in number 9 as Sean has a hangover and the sound of the washing machine has set him off into a bad mood. As usual, he takes it out on Paula. "You're such a bitch," he shouts with venom. "You put that washing machine on deliberately. I fucking know you did." Then before she can reply, he buries his head in his hands and goes back to bed to try sleep it off. Sean is feeling sorry for himself and is angry with Paula for making a noise. He is convinced that she has put the washing machine on to punish him for having a good time with his friends. Sometimes he can't stand her miserable face and he is glad to get out of the house. He notices that she has let herself go, but he doesn't really care because he knows that she won't be going anywhere anytime soon, and she at least does the basics and looks after him. He disliked her mother at first, but pretended that she was wonderful, or else she wouldn't have let them live there. He was delighted when the old girl died. Finally, he had his own house. Now he was king of the castle, just as he thought it should be. Of course, it was a nuisance that Paula had lost her carer's allowance, but they were managing. In fact, I'm doing okay, thinks Sean. Paula sits at the kitchen table. She wasn't going to reply to him anyway. It is slowly dawning on her that he isn't worth it. It's as though she has awoken from some kind of a dream world. She can't remember quite how things got this bad, but it started to go downhill very quickly after her mum had died. Just a few weeks after Sean had lost his job. She knows that she was in a bad way for quite a long time, and Sean would never allow her to cry or get upset or even talk about her mum. On the odd occasion when she did get upset, he would really get angry and abusive. He would say things to her like, "You're behaving like a silly little girl and it's time you grew up." He was so horrible to her that she had to change to survive, so she shut down all her emotions. After a few months, Paula simply functioned at a basic level. She made food sometimes, ate lots of takeaways, drank heavily, and smoked with Sean, and she also put on weight. She stopped caring about how she looked or how clean the house was, as she fell into a kind of an emptiness. In that empty place there was no pain or sadness. There was simply nothingness. It was a kind of hideous sanctuary from reality. The only time she felt a flicker of life was when she argued with Sean, but she could never sustain it for very long. She felt permanently exhausted. Sometimes she actually wanted him to hit her, so that she could say what a brute he was, and then maybe she would find the strength to leave him. But he only ever used words to hurt her, and so she found that she couldn't face doing anything about it. Back then he also brought her flowers from time to time, apparently to show her that he loved her, and foolishly she believed him. She had so wanted to believe him. Now, almost a year later, she is beginning to see the light. "I'm not strong enough yet," she tells herself, but finally she's beginning to imagine that her life might be happier without Sean in it. But that's as far as she can go, because she simply doesn't see how she can get rid of him. He's probably entitled to half of the house, she thinks to herself, and this was my mum's home and there's no way I'm going to give it to him, and I couldn't bear to sell it. Paula feels trapped. Often she feels despair and hopelessness, but some days she is able to dream. Alice is crying again in number 3. She gets upset quite easily these days. "Peter," she says frantically, "you have to go and get him. That man has taken him." Peter tries to comfort her and tells her that the little dog that she thinks she has seen isn't her little Dinky. Lately she has been fixating on a dog named Dinky that she apparently had as a child. At least that's what Peter thinks is going on. This scenario has played out the same way for several days now, and each time it happens, Alice gets quite distraught. Inside, so does Peter. It'll pass, Peter tells himself. And then we'll have a good day. Stick to the routine and all will be well. Peter thinks that Alice has shown more signs of the dementia recently, but then again, on other days, she seems absolutely fine. He hates to see her so upset, but he simply doesn't know what he can do to help her. He is learning, though, that once this passes, she will quickly forget about the dog and they can move on. He is looking forward to the time when Kathy can visit them. He doesn't want to burden her, but he is anxious for her to see her mum before it's too late. Thank heavens for Dan and Olive, he thinks again. They have been fantastic, and Olive, bless her, passes a cake over the fence almost every week. I am very lucky to have them as neighbours. Peter puts the TV on and he and Alice sit down to watch her favourite soap opera. Sometimes she struggles to follow it, and on other days she copes just fine. Peter is hoping that it will be a good day. In number 2, Marissa is enjoying a much needed 2-day break from work. Obviously she and Mary can't go anywhere right now, but they are enjoying just having time together and enjoying the garden. Because they have the time to deal with it, Marissa once again brings up the issues of her relationship with Mary and the secrecy surrounding it. She is fed up with always having to pretend that they are simply friends. And once the lockdown is lifted and they are out and about in public again, she doesn't want to have to pretend anymore. Marissa just has to tell Mary how she feels. She makes them both a cup of coffee before broaching the subject and trying to sound light-hearted about it. "Mary, it won't be long before we are allowed to go out again in public and meet other people. I want it to be different this time. I don't want to meet you somewhere or pretend that we are just good friends. If we can't leave this house together as a couple and be seen together by anyone interested enough to notice, then I don't see how we can continue." The silence that falls between them is almost audible. Even the birds seem to be holding their breaths. Mary has been dreading this moment. "I know, Marissa," says Mary eventually. She looks at her friend and she has tears in her eyes. She takes a mouthful of coffee before eventually continuing. "I want us to continue and I want to introduce you as my girlfriend, but I'm just so scared." She takes a long intake of breath to calm herself. "I don't know how to do this. When I am with you inside this house, then for me everything is perfect, and I see a great future for us. But when I think of telling other people, I am racked with guilt and shame." Then almost whispering, she says, "I don't know how to move forward. I don't know if I can do this." And tears slowly fall down her cheeks. Marissa hates to see Mary so upset, but she finds it really difficult to understand the guilt and shame that Mary talks about. Marissa's parents have always been very open-minded, and her sexuality has never really been an issue. She can't understand why it is such a problem for Mary. But then she has never been married to a man, so maybe that is making a difference. She wants to support Mary through this, but she just doesn't know how. "Okay, Mary, I can see that this is a real challenge for you," she says carefully. "But I can't go on like this. I won't go on, because it is impacting me." Will you agree to see a counsellor to sort out your feelings? Because it is really hard for me to accept that on one hand you say that you love me, and on the other hand you are afraid of what everyone in the world thinks, even people you don't know. Mary swallows and dabs her eyes. Okay, she says. I've never seen a counsellor before, and I really don't know what they can do for me. But if you think it'll help, I'll go and see one. I really don't want to lose you, Marissa, and if seeing a counsellor will make a difference, then I'll go. Marissa has heard of a lady in the next town who has had some experience in dealing with these kinds of issues, so she gives Mary her name. I'm pretty sure that she will be providing online counselling during this period, so please make contact with her soon, she says to Mary, before heading back to the kitchen to top up their coffees. Maybe even today. Mary puts the number that Marissa has given her into her phone. She will ring tomorrow, she promises herself, before realising that this is what she always does about everything. If she can avoid dealing with difficult issues, she always does. The idea of ringing this unknown person to make an appointment fills her with dread. What would she say over the phone? What will the counsellor want to know? What will the counsellor think of her? She feels sick in her stomach simply thinking about it. But she also knows that she must let Marissa see that she is serious about this. She knows that she will lose her if things don't change. She walks to the end of the garden and rings the number. Hello, says a friendly voice on the phone. Mary goes quiet for a moment, and the faceless, now gentle voice says, Hello, can I help you in any way? Yes, says Mary, finally finding her voice. I would like to make an appointment to talk to you if that's possible. Of course, says the voice. Is it okay for you to give me an idea of what the issue is? You don't need to go into details. Just a general idea would be helpful, so that I have an idea of whether I am the right person to help you. Oh no, thinks Mary, panicking slightly. What on earth do I say now? Hesitantly, she says, It's a relationship problem, really. That's fine, says the voice kindly. I'm qualified in that area, and I don't need to know any more about your issue at this time. Mary gives her name to the counsellor, and they agree a time to connect online. Finally, the ordeal is over, and Mary breathes freely again. She feels relieved to have got through that part, and she heads into the kitchen to tell Marissa that she has made the appointment. Marissa is clearly delighted and gives her the biggest hug ever. Maybe it will all be okay, they both think to themselves. If you have something you would like to share or a concern you would like addressed, please send it in and we will try and incorporate it into the future storylines. Tune in again for the next episode of Relationship Road.
Welcome to Relationship Road, where people live just like me and you, alone or together in all kinds of weather, and most of them are scared of this flu. What's going on over there? It's none of my business, I know, but I couldn't help but notice it looks like psychosis. The pressure's starting to show. What kind of neighbor am I? Am I doing my bit for the road? My parents are elderly, my children disorderly, the whole world is suddenly slow. What's going on over there? It's none of my business, I know, but I couldn't help but notice it looks like psychosis.